Before the video starts, if you want to make money from your very own manga or comic, I'm hosting a community competition where I am personally putting up $200 in prizes for the best entries. Deadline is October 8th. Check out the description for more details and a link to the full rules list. But now, let's jump into the video. In a series talking about what makes good manga, it might seem strange to finally discuss the art in detail. After all, the art is the single and most unique feature of manga and comics. It's the panel-by-panel adaptation of everything that's happening in the story. While the story is obviously the outline and backbone for the series, it isn't manga if it doesn't have art. No manga exists without it, so why wait so long to discuss the most distinct part of the medium? Why not just start off with that? It's because in the videos before this, discussing how to grab a reader's attention, plot progressions, layouts, and characters and their designs, those pieces simply and inarguably serve as the foundation of a series before a single drop of ink hits the page. Now that we're here at the art itself, this video is about how to turn that art into something meaningful, and how to avoid some of the pitfalls that newer artists run into. After all, while there are plenty of drawings from hundreds of thousands of artists that can look very cool on their own, the point of manga is that they work together in a seamless cohesion to describe the story that you want to tell. If you can already draw well, but there's no substance behind it, what are you really creating? It's more of a pretty picture book. The idea today is how to turn these individual pretty pictures, or the not so pretty pictures if you're just starting out, which is totally okay, into a narrative. As Araki says in the 5th chapter of Manga in Theory and Practice, when it comes to manga, art is God. When done properly, the art can convey almost everything to the audience without a single speech bubble on the page. If done well, art is able to tell us everything that we need about the characters, settings, tone, themes, and plot. Even dialogue can somewhat be portrayed purely through art, with facial expressions and reactions to other characters. In this example from Chainsaw Man, Denji has this look of disgust on his face, so even with the speech bubbles whited out, you can still see his reaction to what was said. Please know that when I say good art, that doesn't mean that it needs to always be highly detailed, realistic work. While we'll get into this a little bit later, highly detailed and impressive art that doesn't have anything behind it is objectively worse manga compared to manga that is drawn poorly, but the art in it is clear in what's being portrayed. Look no further than One Punch Man or the Mob Psycho 100 webcomics. While there are other examples of manga with quote-unquote bad art with a good story, I really struggle to think of a series that has this kind of art that is as popular as OPM and Mob Psycho is. These grew organically. Some of the art is legitimately atrocious from a critic's point of view. It's even bad enough that most don't bother to read these series in their original format, but the reason that they gained popularity was in spite of this quote-unquote bad art. Yes, one is, or at least was, unable to draw even a normally good circle throughout the beginning chapters of OPM. But because we as the audience laughed, we were enthralled by, and ultimately entertained by these series, that's what made them succeed. So if you're watching this and you lack the ability to draw, please don't get yourself down. There's always room for improvement, and I'd probably lean on that part first, but just know that if you make a good product, you don't need to be the next Kentaro Miura to have a successful series. So from that, the question still stands. What does good art in manga mean? It's not just the pretty pictures, as I previously said, it comes from a few different places. One of the important pieces that goes underappreciated is the actual stylization of your art to make a cohesive design throughout the entire series. Take a look at these panels. Each one is done by a guest illustrator. If you're a fan of manga, you probably have a general idea who drew these, even if you haven't seen these specific images before. Mangaka have pretty frequently done this, whether to celebrate a series milestone, conclusion, or just a pure celebration of the series, they'll draw these series in their own style. Yusuke Murata, who draws for the updated One Punch Man series, drew his depiction of Dragon Ball with Bulma and Goku. Kishimoto, the author of Naruto, drew this Giorno Giovanna image to celebrate 25 years of JoJo, And Tite Kubo, the author of Bleach, drew the final piece for Naruto. Why is it so clear to know who drew these panels just from the way that the characters look alone? Well, it's exactly like penmanship. If you have family or friends that write to you, you can probably tell who's making the note before you get to the from line. Art is the exact same way. While reading hundreds of pages of manga, you see how a successful author has a cohesive character design throughout the series. The subtle shading on each character, the way that characters pose, the backgrounds and objects have a certain feel to them. Looking at this example in more detail, Kubo has always had a very strong and sharp character design. The jaws are pointed, the way that the Rasengan in the background is wavy but still powerful, the bony hands and knuckles on Orochimaru. Kubo has a very consistent character design, and that's proven by this image. If you weren't familiar with Naruto and you were reading through Bleach for the first time, you probably wouldn't flinch if these two were dropped into a chapter. Think of it this way. If you were to read a series that went from rounded edges on one page, then on the next they all became rigid and hard, and then when you went to the page after that, there was some art that had a mix of thin and thick line work, it's really easy to be confused and dissuaded from continuing to read. It gives off an aura of inconsistency and makes it harder to follow along with a constantly changing style. These characters have to mesh in with each other, with different features to make them stand out, but at the same time, having a baseline between all of them. Every single series that has ever come out or will ever come to grace the pages of any magazine has to master this. It is one of the few inarguable points that I will make in my entire career here on YouTube. If your character designs are not consistent, you will not have a good manga. After his discussions on mastering a cohesive design from page to page, Araki speaks about realism and signification in manga. This is an excellent line for an author to draw, literally and figuratively, in manga. Realism is drawing as close to reality as possible. If you're drawing a pocket watch's gears, you're having all the specific gears, hands, battery, etc. on the inside, neatly detailed and distinct from one another. Signification, on the other hand, is just making it recognizable from a glance. Think of it as a more stylized and less specific way to draw something. For example, if you're drawing a bookshelf, and that bookshelf is not important to the plot and is merely a background filler, you're not making every single book say something on the spines and adding designs and whatnot. You're more than anything just drawing out different books, but that's where that extra detail ends. If someone sees the drawing, they know it's a bookshelf, they can see that books are on the shelf, but they don't need to see the effort made for 30 different books and all of their designs. Araki uses the example of a sports manga, but I like this one a little bit more, and in an effort to put as much of my own input into this as possible. Imagine you were reading a series about a heist. What kind of things would you expect to see in very high detail, aka our realism drawings? And what would you expect to see in lower detail, which are our signification drawings? When I think of a heist, I'm thinking of someone picking locks, cracking open safes, and maybe doing sleight of hand work with an important item. In those cases, I would expect to see the insides of the safe, breakdowns of blueprints of the different handles, grooves, and crevices in the safe. I would want to make these objects that they're breaking into look staggering and difficult. If it just looks like a door, it's not going to show a lot. But now, if it's a heavy oak door with a very specific lock on it, now I know that it's difficult to break into. Those are the items that should be realistic in manga. As for the signification in the same setting, things outside of that heist won't be as critical. The shopping mall that they're passing by, the newspapers that people are reading on the street. There's really no purpose to put unrealistic time and energy into those objects, so instead take that extra focus and put it into the objects that matter to the story. Every genre has this. Battle manga would have realism in their fighting techniques, the holds, the hits, the magic, etc. Sports should have detailed plays that are being drawn up, showing how one person passes from one another, stretching just a little bit farther and a little bit more detailed to make it seem real and believable. Romance should show the small but intricate details on each person's face and how they convey what they want to the other person. The long and short of it is this: focus on what matters. That is what makes good art. No one is impressed by the grocery store shelving in the background of your battle manga if the battles themselves aren't realistically detailed. Achieving this balance is the first key to making a really good manga, through the art being done well and therefore playing its proper role. But the final cherry on top is this: make your art lasting and impactful. Araki's quote once again says it best: preserve a moment for eternity. Make a long-lasting impact. I know that throughout my time of reading manga and comics that I have favorite panels across all genres. The best part of manga to me are those panels that stick out in your mind beyond the years after reading a series. It's the ones where the emotional impact and that artistic impact meet in the middle to deliver the panels that you just want to frame on your wall. These panels are exactly what they set out to be. They are lasting and impactful. While manga's art should be clear and convey the proper messages of their stories, these are the big ones. These are the ones that you should really study the next time that you pick up a new series. See why they stand out so much to you. See why they've stayed in your mind for so long. See why they're important and why they are impactful. Once that impact is conveyed by you as the artist, or when it's felt when you're the reader at that really deep and personal level, you're guaranteed to go far. Even for series that quote-unquote fell off like Bleach, I still routinely see Kubo's panels highlighted and praised to this day, nearly 7 years after it was cut out of the Shonen Jump catalog, and many years after it was shoved to the side. That's the stuff that will last forever. That is what makes these panels flow. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this kind of content, please like and subscribe to see more. Leave a comment for your suggestion on the next video I should do, and as I said in the beginning of the video, I'm holding a community competition for your manga and comic entries purely as a showcase for you to show off and to potentially win money from yours truly. You can look at the subreddit r/panelflow for more information. It's my subreddit and I'm the sole moderator, so if you have any questions, I will get a notification and I can respond to you as quickly as possible. Thanks again.